Dune Part 2 released in theaters last week, and after a miserable January and February for the entire entertainment industry, for the theatrical business, Dune Part 2 finally put a shot of adrenaline in the arm of the box office with a big opening weekend, much bigger than they had with the original Dune. Obviously, that also had the simultaneous release on HBO Max, back when it was called HBO Max. But now we're seeing what the hold looks like, and it looks like it's pretty fucking good. Dune Part 2 rises to $367.5 million globally. Also, Kung Fu Panda came out. Kung Fu Panda took #1 at the box office, well exceeded a lot of expectations, just showing you that pretty much everything regarding like animated kids movies is doing better than Disney. And Kung Fu Panda looks to be another hit for them. But this is focused on Dune Part 2 because $367 million globally. At this point in Oppenheimer's release, a lot of people are connecting these two movies because they're both almost 3 hours long. They both might not be the typical kind of normie audience that goes to see them, or at least that was in the minds of a lot of people. At this point in time, Oppenheimer was around 400 million. So Dune tracking a little bit behind that, 90% of that effectively, which still, if it keeps that pace, would be an incredible achievement for Dune Part 2. But look at this. Warner Brothers Legendary Entertainment's Dune Part 2 held strongly in its sophomore session of the international box office, adding 81 million to handily cross the 200 million overseas milestone and reaching $367.5 million globally. And I think it had about a 44% drop here domestically in the United States and Canada, a really, really fucking stronghold, especially for something that came out in March. But look at these numbers. In just 12 days, Dune Part 2 crossed 300 million at the global box office. Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya rode past 200 mil overseas after a miraculous $81 million second weekend. So to put that in perspective, the Batman's second weekend, 68 million. Oppenheimer's second weekend, 72 million. Just a 19% drop from opening thanks to the debut in China. So that has to be put into perspective as well, that it opened in China this week. It was the opening weekend in China as opposed to opening weekend for almost everywhere else last week. The holdovers still at 36% drop, really solid hold. I really like Dune. Now, at the same time, there are definitely things that they did. Specifically, the biggest problem I have with Dune Part 2 was the way Chani was depicted. And even most of the movie I could have been fine with because I understand they're trying to get that perspective of the route that Paul's going down. It was really the ending, the last 5 minutes of Chani's character that I really did not like. However, the rest of it, I loved a lot of things that they did in the movie. I wish we could have seen some additional shit in there that ended up getting cut out for time. Overall, I think Dune Part 2, a really, really fucking great movie. And I can't wait to go see it again in theaters. I assume there's going to be quite a few repeat viewings, and that might help it continue to dominate the box office because it has been a desert right now for theatrical business. Say what you will about the studios and woke Hollywood and everything like that. For the box office, for the theatrical chains out there, really doesn't matter to them where the money is coming from as long as people are coming butts in seats. That had not happened February and January of 2024. It was horrendous. So now finally people coming back to the theater to see a couple things they're actually interested in, whether that's Dune Part 2 or families going to see Kung Fu Panda 4. Either way, big weekend at the box office.